Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host Rashid. We're having technical difficulties once again as the show starts. YouTube, StreamYard, you suck, and I have to say that at the beginning. You guys never mind that. We're going to be doing a few things. Today's show is titled "Waiting for the Next Shoe to Drop." Now, there was some misspelling by accident from my son. And I caught it at the last minute when I got home. I've been ripping and running. I'm trying to get back through all of that traffic just to do the show. I want to show you, before we get into the news, I want to show you something, okay? Let's see if we can do it. Let me see if I can pull up the right picture. So bear with me, everybody. This is for everybody on all of the platforms, the Red Pill Diaries, the Red Pill Journals, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey, and locals. Thank you all for joining me. I just want to show you something real quick, okay? Where is the Scott Ritter? I believe this one is the Scott Ritter. I want you to, you see this up on the screen here? This is Scott Ritter. It says live with Scott Ritter. And up here, I don't know if you can see it real good, but it says 2.9K views, right? From 4 days ago, the Scott Ritter. Okay, and I'm doing this for a reason, to show you that YouTube and other platforms, they are scared of the truth. So the people that they promote to get all those major numbers, they must not be afraid of them and what they're bringing. All right, I'm going to show you something. Look right here. 2.9K views. Okay, 4 days ago, Scott Ritter. All right, now let me take that off the screen. Now I'm going to bring something else up. Here it comes. All right, there we go. Now you see this. I needed to move my banner. Shoot, I wish I could move my banner. But on this one, what does it say? I can pull it up real quick while I'm on, and I can tell you exactly. On this banner, this is off of Telegram, okay? And this has everything to do with the collapse of America, the collapse of the Western world. But I have to take baby steps and build this thing up so that you can understand why they're censoring people, why they are suspending people, why they are so frightened at the news that is coming. So bear with me, okay? On this thing, it says, and my banner is kind of blocking it here. And I don't want to take my banner down at this moment, but it says one interview for the Red Pill Diaries. That's what it says up here. And it says, watch on YouTube. You see? Watch on YouTube. Click here. Right? That means when you click there, it gives you the YouTube link to go to the Red Pill Diaries to watch the Scott Ritter interview. Remember what I just showed you? The Scott Ritter interview on YouTube says 2.9K. Right? On Telegram, it tells a different story. There has been 17,100 clicks to the video on YouTube from Telegram alone on this click. I want to show you something. See, YouTube, you kind of pissed me off a little bit earlier today. So I'm gonna out you live on the air. So on the YouTube page from other platforms, it just says 2.9. But if you see up there in blue, it says click here to watch on YouTube, right? And when you follow that link back to YouTube, there is now 17.2K views for the Scott Ritter interview just off of Telegram alone. How is it that the math is not mathing? I'm asking. So we have this. See, the pressure will burst the pipe. When they're doing this thing, they're irrational. They don't think things through. They think just because they hold the reins of power, they can do this. Like the U.S. government, like the British government, like NATO. So in their desperation, they do things and they leave signs of their corruption and their irrationality. I want to show you something else, and we're going to tie this in a little bit more with the collapse of the Western world, okay? So just give me a second real quick and see if this is the one. Hold on one second, everybody. Okay, you see up here, the Red Pill Diaries. It says 4.07K views. Now, that's today, all right? We're going to pull that down. Look right under where it says the Red Pill Diaries at the Red Pill Diaries officials. He, him, and then it says 4.0K, 7K. All right. And the date is up there in the top. I made sure it's Tuesday, July 2nd, right up at the top. If you look, I slid my finger down to try to catch it while I was screenshotting it, okay? I want you to look at this, okay? So bear with you, brother, for a second. Now, look what it said yesterday. Let's see. No, where is it at? Let's see if they. There it is. Is that it? Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to pick it up. See if they'll allow this up there. They may not even allow me to put this one up there because it. Now look up there. 4.080 yesterday. This is what I'm telling you. Every time it goes up, it comes right back down. Every time some subscribers subscribe, it goes right back down. The pressure that we're putting on them to give the truth to the people has them frightened of this little channel. They don't do that. And I like Judge Knapp show. I think it's awesome. They don't do that to him. They're not doing that to other channels. They can continue to allow them to get thousands of views, thousands of subscribers a week. That's why they go from 2,000 to 10,000. To give you an example, my good friend Dimitri Lascaris. Last month, Demetrius had less than 1,000 subscribers. This month, Dimitri has between 14 and 18,000 subscribers off videos with me. How is that? Listen, go to my good friend Carl Zar's channel and look at the videos from the Red Pill Diaries and how they bloom and blossom. 30,000, 50,000, 70,000 views, and on the main page, 200 views. I'm asking you to make that make sense. The math ain't mathing. So evidently there's something on this platform that they don't like. Is it my color? Like some people are saying? I don't care. That's a burden that YouTube has to deal with, not Rashid. Not Rashid. Rashid is not going to carry the burden that YouTube has to carry or that StreamYard has to carry. That's your burden. That's a cross that you have to carry, not me. What I'm going to do is teach the truth, even as you suppress me. All right? You can only hold a good thing down so long. So now look, that is why when you see certain channels and they blossom and bloom and they blow up, you say, man, that's a good channel, but why have they exploded? Because they are not really a threat. They're not really a threat. Then you see channels that you say, man, these people should have 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. And they're showing you proof of the suppression. Then that means that something that I'm saying or something that I'm showing or something that I'm doing is a threat to not only their platform, but to the establishment and the established way of thinking. Do you understand? This is what I want to show you. I'm telling you, these people are after me and they are trying to stop the growth of the show. Hold on, let me move these off the. Come on, man. Let me remove this from the studio. Remove this from the studio. Remove this from the studio. Hold on 1 second, everybody. Remove this from the studio. This is what I'm saying. This is what they do to me. And I told you we take pictures to show you these things so that nobody can, oh, maybe he's embellishing it a little bit. Maybe they're doing it a little bit, but he may be just exaggerating. I'm showing you. I keep records. Because they understand that if truth gets to you and you start piecing it apart and putting it together and say, hey, maybe this is the truth, then that is a threat to their position, their narrative, and their power. And they will not allow anybody to threaten their position, their power, or their narrative if they can help it. They're willing to vilify, demonize, and eventually sanction or wage war on nations. So what do you think that they would do to channels or platforms? And while we're speaking about war, let's go to something real quick. Told you we tie all this in. All right? Hold on 1 second, everybody. Let me go here. So, As I told you, everybody, while everybody was being pumped fake to Ukraine, that there's a great, massive military buildup across the MENA region, the Middle Eastern, North African region. And I have been saying this, I don't know, for the last, 20 years, that, and I might be underestimating, but for the last 20 years at least, I've been saying that there will be a regional conflagration in the MENA region. I gave it that name, Middle Eastern, North African region. And that is the way I look at it. And it is going to be a massive conflagration. Why do you think America is continuing to send warplanes, warships, radars, bombs, missile defense systems, everything to that area? While she is waging war in Ukraine, why do you think she's just sending 2 aircraft carriers there? Huh? Why do you think that she reinforced her bases, her illegal bases in Syria, and took the amount of troops from 300 to over 1,500 in Syria? Why do you think that she has upped her troop presence in Jordan to over, the official numbers are over 3,000, close to 4,000, but we know whenever that's said, it's about 2 to 3 times that, okay? In Jordan. Why do you think that she put that pier in Gaza? Why do you think that America continues to send cargo planes full of arms landing in occupied Palestine on a daily basis? Why do you think America has sent ambassadors around the region to try to secure themselves for something that they see? And why do they keep warning us about a possible conflagration between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and Hezbollah, or Israel and Iran? And how America says that if there is a war, no matter how wrong Israel may be, no matter how out of pocket or how much it ignores international law, what did America say? That we will help defend Israel. All right. Now, my mom used to tell me as a child, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And adding people to the wrong don't make it right. So if America knows that Israel is in violation of international law and is violating the airspace of Lebanon, Syria, and other places in that region, bombing people on a daily basis, committing acts of war, all of these intransigent moves by Israel can now be associated to the U.S. and the U.K. Because listen, the U.K. is not stupid in this. That's why Nasrallah said that if Cyprus gets involved and allow for airplanes to take off from Cyprus, then Hezbollah will turn its missiles on Cyprus. Cyprus is an island in the Mediterranean that is occupied by Britain on one half and occupied by Turkey on the other half. Or 1/3 is occupied by Turkey, I believe, and 2/3 is occupied by Britain because it was a British protectorate. Okay, and so they are putting warplanes and bombs all over those against the wishes of the people there. These things are not done for fun, everybody. This is not just to reinforce security. This is not, you don't deploy tens of billions of dollars of weaponry, hundreds of billions of dollars of warships and warplanes to an area to get a message across to someone you deem an enemy. You do that in anticipation of a conflict. And all of your policies show you that you're moving towards that at breakneck speed without putting your foot on the brake at all. Shout out to everybody's in the chat. I'll go to the chat in a minute. So we see that all while we're seeing that at home, America falls apart. At home, she falls apart. Let me go to something real quick as we tie the economics in with the geopolitics. Okay. All right. Let me go to something real quick. Everybody bear with me because I'm working on my phone through my computer today. So, excuse me. We'll take a trip to the economic collapse blog for a second. Okay. I haven't read this article, but it struck me as soon as I saw the title, and it was released on June 25th. What is that? About 7 days ago. by Michael Snyder. And the title of this article is 11 Signs That the U.S. Economy is in far worse shape than most people think. Now, that title alone should get your attention because you're talking about the U.S. economy. And when you talk about the U.S. economy, by extension, you're talking about the U.S. dollar. And by extension, you're talking about the British pound and the European euro. Because all of these are in bed together. And if America is in economic turmoil, economic trouble, that spells trouble for the life's blood of Western hegemony and Western economic dominance. You see how these things are interchangeable and relate to each other? So let's go a little further. The article reads like this. Unless you are living under a bridge or you are eagerly drinking the Kool-Aid that the mainstream media is dishing out, you probably understand that the economy has been struggling. Survey after survey has found that the American people are deeply dissatisfied with how the American economy has been performing. And as a result, it has become the number one issue this election season. Not Ukraine, even though a part of the reason of the suffering is from Ukraine. Let me tell you something, everybody. It has become the number one issue in this year's election, but nobody will address the cause of the problem. You know, nobody wants to talk about the cause of the economic crisis. When you do wrong to people and refuse to do right by people, you build up negative capital. People don't want to be around you. People whisper when you're around. People plot your downfall, all of it because of the way that you have shown disregard to them and their interests, right? That's America, right? All right, now look. When we talk about the number one issue this political season, which is the economy, we have to understand that a huge portion of the economic budget of the U.S. goes towards war. They say they put a good spin on it, right? Defense spending. When it's war, show me where anything that America is doing is for defense. Show me. Having bases around the globe, is that defense? Violating the territorial integrity of other nations by putting bases there and ignoring the will of the people of those nations, that's for defense. To me, that is alienating people who would be your friends if you move your military bases. Now remember, we're going to go with the lowest number on the totem pole. That's 800 military bases. 800 military bases with troops rotating in and out of them constantly, with warplanes and warships rotating out of them constantly, with war games and the upgrading and the fixing of maintenance on warplanes and warships. Those are tens of billions of dollars that could be used better at home. You understand? So when we look at this economy, and we look at the growing unemployment, the growing homelessness, when people have to deal with whether or not they can pay their bill or pay their rent. They're saying, well, I want a place to stay, so if my lights get cut off, I'll just get candles. At least I have a place to stay. Or I'll get me a sandwich, something to make some noodles and some sandwiches, and I'll get my medicine, and I'll skip my car payment, and next month around, I'll just vice versa. This shows you the decline of America. When the interests of war parties are put over the interests of the people. This shows you how degraded the minds of the leadership has become. When you are sworn to an oath to defend that person and that people and that nation from threats, be they domestic or foreign. And that does not mean getting a gun all the time. That means examining the situation that these people are in and coming up with a solution to extricate them from out of the plague of poverty, sickness, health, and want. That's a part of national security. That is defending a nation. You understand? Without defending and securing the people, you have no nation. What somebody said to somebody up in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Huh? So let's go further, because we're talking about that is issue number one on the in the election season. Why won't anybody address these things? Stop supplying tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine. which is actually going to the war profiteers of the West. Stop alienating people around the world. Extricate yourself from these bases around the world. You say you got the basis for national security. And on the other hand, you say, well, we have these nuclear weapons so that no nation will attack us. Which is it? Which is it? If the nuclear weapons are doing no good, then disarm them and get them out the way, because that's $10 trillion that can be used for the people. If that is for your national security and it's not to coerce and force people to do what you want, then get rid of the bases. But you can't have it both ways. Huh? You cannot have it both ways. So let's go further. All right, everybody, y'all bear with me. All right, bear with me. You know I'm passionate about this. Please, if you get offended, and my guy Matty is in the building. But if you get offended, notice that I'm not aiming at your feelings. But sometimes when the doctor has examined you and the doctor sees that you have some kind of sour stomach or some kind of virus or some kind of sickness, they may give you a shot, or and you may be scared of needles. And they give you the shot anyhow. Because even though they know that you're scared of needles, they know that they need to inject you with this certain medicine to address the problem that you are facing. Or they may give you a certain medicine, liquid or pill form, to address that problem. And it may be bitter going down. But after a while, when it gets in and start working, it can return you back to a sound mind, sound body, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make the people think rationally. Think through the fog of propaganda and what is it? I call it the two-sided coin of politics in America. I want us to think, because for so long, that is one thing that has been lacking in society around, and not just in America, but globally. And everybody is in their feelings. Everybody is in their feelings. And then you got men who are sissified, and you got women who are too hardback. And that's not the natural order of things. We have to address these things, whether we piss people off or whatever. It is better to be pissed off than to get pissed on. You understand? All right, let's go. It says, but even though a large portion of the population is not happy about how things have been going, the truth is that the situation is far more dire than most people realize. Let's stop right there for a minute, okay? Let's go to something. Now, according to the dictionary, the word dire, it's an adjective. And it means of a situation or event, or an event extremely serious or urgent, terrible, dreadful, appalling, ominous, portentous, gloomy. So now that we got an understanding of that word, let's go back to that article real quick and let's read that over again. But even though a large portion of the population is not happy about how things have been going, the truth is that the situation is far more gloomy, ominous, right? That's what it means. Dire than most people realize. So while you're watching the Keeping Up with the Kardashians, this foolishness that they put, or the NBA finals, all of this madness that keeps you away from focusing on the issues at hand that are vital to you, right? The powerful continue chugging on, fleecing the people for more and more and more and more. It's crazy, right? Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Medi. Shout out to Flying Crocodile. Shout out to Mr. Carter. Random Izerg. Shout out. Let me see something, man. This thing is moving. Hold on 1 second. This thing is jumping. Let's see. Medi says, let me put this in here real quick. I got to put this up here. So he says, I know he is 100% completely right. And then Mehdi says, or watch this. Let me put it, and we just got the dictionary. You know, it's not a show unless we put the dictionary. Because sometimes people think they understand words. They think so, right? And then when someone actually reads the definition and you wind up, you say, wow, I thought it meant this, but it actually means this. So when you're dealing with people or when you're reading something, it gives you more in-depth understanding of what the people or the writer or the person is trying to convey. Right? So again, what did Mehdi say? Let me put this up here. Mehdi says, Rashid, the Washington, D.C. establishment do not even know people who know people like us. That's what, boom, mic drop moment. That's what I'm saying. This is the recipe for civil insurrection and civil war. To ignore the plight of the people whom you govern. And you castigate them and cast them aside. To persecute and prosecute more wars abroad while the masses are suffering. This is one of the sparks for national war and global war. Isn't that what takes nations to war? When other nations disregard the will or the national security of other nations and disregard the will of those people and try to dominate in all facets of life. Isn't that what brings those nations to war? So if we're looking at it internationally, how about we apply it domestically? We see the embers are smoldering right now in America, in Europe, around the globe. And yet they continue to blow wind on them through the lies, through the propaganda, through the censorship, through the outright theft and robbery of people by passing laws and bills that benefit the rich at the expense of the poor and the middle class. Sooner or later, one of those winds are going to blow and it's going to catch that ember. And now you have a fire. And then it's going to be hard as hell to put it out, especially when you're financially insolvent. Especially when you have alienated the globe, every nation around the globe. And that's going to be a problem that you're going to have to deal with at home. Well, let's see something real quick. Let's see. Let me put this up here real quick. They got to keep the grift going. Man, what are you talking about, Joel? They got to keep the grift going. Can't close down the money washing machine called Ukraine. You know, Joel, speaking on that before we go back to this article. This is what I'm telling you about how the people who are learned are dumb as hell. They go to their colleges and they get these degrees. Then they go in and they execute the principles of what they learned in college, which are detached from reality and from the streets, okay? They get into these high offices and these revolving doors of power. They ignore the masses, right? And the masses are telling them, hey, listen, this is common sense. But in their mind, they have become so isolated mentally, and they have become so inebriated on the power trip of being in power or having connections to power that they ignore that which is absolutely common. So this is what happens. You come to them with sane, rational, sound writings and judgments and policies. They ignore that because it is not what their backers and their financiers give them. And then, listen, this is crazy. And I tell people, I say, do they ever think about this? And when I think about it, I say, no, because God has smitten them with derision. This is the judgment of America. This is the judgment of the Western world. So he has smitten them with derision. Look at what derision is, okay? So look, and this is the only way to look at it. You cannot look at it in any different way, especially after the gathering of multiple facts. They are willfully and willingly censoring, deplatforming, and just outright taking you out of search engines, right? They're dumbing down the masses. Oh, look, I just got disconnected from locals. I just got disconnected. And it's not locals that disconnect me. It is StreamYard. I just got disconnected from locals. I guess they don't want to hear this, okay? I guess StreamYard is getting teed off with me. But it is what it is. So listen. And if you want me to, I'll take a little picture and show you guys. I just got disconnected. Let me see something real quick. Hold on 1 second, everybody. Boom. All righty. Let me see if I can put it up there for you guys. You might not be able to see it real good, but let me pull it back some. Because I got the thing up. Anyway, you can't see it. Can you? Usually some way. There it is. Usually some way I'll let you guys see it, but it's not up right now. But anyway, I got it picture proof just in case. I always keep a paper trail. So, and evidently I'm teeing some of the streaming platforms off for what I'm saying. But look at this. Because they've made a killing of your ignorance, and because they use these mantras, build back better, make America great again, and what was Obama's? I don't know. I don't even pay attention to that dude too much, but his slogan and all of that other stuff. People are longing for change. The masses are longing for change. So what they do, they exploit the masses and what the masses hold dear to them so that they can attain power. And when they get the power, they ignore the masses, right? And this is what they do. They censor you. They enact more laws to take away whatever freedom that they claim that you have. Then they dumb you down by defunding educational platforms from Head Start to school to colleges, indebting future generations to debt that they can never pay, right? And they believe just because they're making off like a fat rat right now that America will endure. Let's forget what we're talking about for a minute. Let's just examine that part. If you're in debt, put in debt, your future lawyers, doctors, politicians, scientists, astronauts, teachers, or whatever, the stewards of civilization, they will be focusing on trying to pay down the debt, not progressing ideas, not ideas that will further establish the nation or the republic, not immersing themselves in R&D to bring about the next generation or whatever. They will be concerned about getting the debt burden off of them, right? Now, hold on. What about the high school kids, the Head Start kids, the junior high school kids, the elementary school kids that have been given a dumbed down education? They don't even, I didn't even know this until a few months ago, till one of my nieces told me, they right before she graduated, they don't even teach cursive writing anymore. I didn't even know it. I'm like, huh? So how do you sign your name? Oh, you don't have to write in cursive to sign your name. That's what signature is. But the dumbing down, because they're fleecing the people, they don't understand that that is a nuclear bomb at the base of your society. When you destroy the educational system, when education it is that civilizes us and maintains us and helps us grow mentally, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, and helps us to advance financially. When you destroy the base of that, you destroy the base of your republic. They don't even look at that because greed and power has taken over. And it's all about in everybody else's business. North Korea is being very belligerent. Hey, does North Korea have war games on the coast of Florida? No. Well, how are they being belligerent? Don't you have them on the Korean Peninsula? Yeah, but we're not belligerent. China is being very aggressive against its neighbor. How? Is China trying to take over South America? No. Are you trying to dominate everywhere? Yes. Well, how is China the belligerent one? Russia is being very arrogant, and what her next moves are very, very, very egregious and could be provocative. Hold on. So Vladimir Putin and his crew picked Russia up, placed it in between America and Canada, or America and Mexico, and now they're setting up missile bases there. No, But is America doing that in the former Soviet space? Yeah. Then how in the hell is Russia belligerent and provocative when it is you doing it? I'm asking. Why won't anybody ask these questions? Because they're hurt. They don't want to alienate the viewers. They don't want to alienate the money that comes in. All of us need money. You need money to get by. Hell, I wish I had a billion subscribers and all of this stuff. That would make a lot of the things easier. But I will not compromise for that. You can forget that. That's not happening. So, in their so-called educational minds, they have become so ignorant through their wickedness and their greed that they can't see the forest for the trees. And they are laying thermite and nuclear bombs at the base of American society and at Western dominance. That's what we're looking at. What did Mr. Carter say? Oh my God, Dumb Elf Canuck is in the building. I mean, let's see. Ever listen to Dr. Shiva? No. It sounds familiar. I'm not sure. If you have something to say, go to Hiram. That's HIRAM 1555 at yahoo.com and leave me a link there. Leave me something there. That's an email. Okay. Let's see. Perseverance Chameleon says the people all around the world are waking up to the Western Zionist conspiracy of dominance. Since you said that, let's go into something. Okay? Let me place this on the screen, Mr. Perseverance Chameleon.
And Brexit cheerleading figurehead Nigel Farage has stirred up something of a hornet's nest by suggesting that NATO's to blame for provoking Russia into its war with Ukraine.
I stood up in the European Parliament in 2014 and I said, and I quote, there will be a war in Ukraine.
Have we taken leave of our senses? Do we actually want to have a war with Putin? Because if we do, we're certainly going about it the right way. We directly encouraged the uprising in the Ukraine that led to the toppling of the president, Yanukovych, and that led, of course, in turn to Vladimir Putin reacting. And the moral of the story is if you poke the Russian bear with a stick, don't be surprised when he reacts.
Why did I say that? It was obvious to me that the ever eastward expansion of NATO and the European Union was giving this man a reason to his Russian people to say they're coming for us again and to go to war. We provoked this war. Of course, it's his fault. He's used what
But we provoked the invasion of Ukraine.
Yes, and very interestingly, once again, 10 years ago when I predicted this, by the way, I'm the only person in British politics that predicted what would happen.
Farage has faced a backlash at home over his comments, mainly from his opponents in the upcoming general election.
What he said was completely wrong and only plays into Putin's hands. And this kind of appeasement is dangerous for Britain's security.
Farage's comments about Russia and Ukraine are disgraceful.
However, despite the criticism coming from the UK's two biggest parties and the Prime Minister himself, it seems the voters like what they're hearing. Farage's relatively young Reformer UK party is actually polling high in third place. It's even projected to steal seats from the ruling Conservatives in the July election. Well, just for a bit of biography, Farage is the current leader and co-founder of the Reform UK party. He has been labelled the face of Euroscepticism. In fact, he led the campaign for the UK's withdrawal from the EU. We heard from John Loughland, a lecturer in politics and history. He believes that Farage's opponents are smearing him to make sure no view pierces the mainstream echo chamber.
You realise that these people, well, at least I assume, that they have not even heard this argument before. You know, they are so blinkered that they have not even considered whether or not the Western policy of expansion of NATO and the European Union might have played a role in all of this. And that is extremely dangerous. I think that it's possible that British people have a better understanding. On the other hand, in the media world, And in politics, there is absolutely only one view allowed, apart from radical dissidents like George Galloway. So whether he's done this because he has impulse, or whether he simply replied to a question, because you see, the interview on Friday, it was one of those gotcha interviews. That's what British journalists do. They think they're incredibly clever, and they put things into the conversation which they think the interviewee is not expecting. And I suspect that's what Nick Robinson was doing. He was dragging up a tweet from 2022 and thinking, haha, I'll get Farage on this one. That's what they do all the time. They're not interested in debate. They're just interested in trying to catch these people out. So whether Farage brought this up because he thinks that that's how the British people think, or whether he was simply asked the question and replied to it, I don't know. He hasn't really made, I can't say that he's made a big issue of the Ukraine war in this campaign. So I suspect it's probably the latter.
So that's what we see. Let me remove this from the screen, okay? Give me a sec. Remove that from the studio. Now I'm back. And I got an email where somebody was saying something about what do I know about the U.S. military or whatever. Well, let me just say it like this. Even though I'm apolitical, my father's father is buried at NAS, at Naval Air Station. He's buried there. My brother served on the DMZ. My uncle served in Vietnam. My other uncle, 20 plus years in the Navy. My niece, Navy. My cousins, both of them, one of my cousins served multiple tours of duties in Iraq, Afghanistan, and everything else. What else do I have? I have a list of cousins, friends. So before you start questioning me, how about you look within yourself, okay? All right? All right, that's how we do that. Now you shut your pie hole. Anyway, so again, they are frightened to death. Farage didn't say anything wrong. He didn't lie. He said it was NATO expansion that led to this. Hey, wasn't Putin warning this when he came to office? Hey, look. We have some agreements. You guys keep ignoring our agreements. We allowed the reunification of Germany. We allowed the Berlin Wall to come down. We allowed for you to even get one or two new members in the NATO that were former part of the Warsaw Pact. But that wasn't enough. They gobbled up almost all of the members of the former Warsaw Pact into NATO. And they have pushed NATO up to Russia's borders. How is Russia belligerent? I don't understand that. If you and I are having beef, and you live in England, and I live in Florida, and we're arguing, and we say, well, we're going to make amends. We're not going to threaten each other. And one day I show up in your neighborhood, right down the street from your house, in that house. Then the next thing you know, I have 2 of your neighbors on my side. Then I have 4 of your neighbors. Then the next thing you know, you're the only one with your thought in the neighborhood, and everybody's on my side, and we want to hurt you. Who's the belligerent one? Who is the aggressive one? I left America to come to England to start crap with you. Huh? I ignored all of the dialogue that we had, all of the agreements, verbal and formal, that we made. And yet, because I have the control of the press, I'm going to put it as though you're belligerent because you're resistance to my desire to dominate you completely. That is what they're doing. That is what is going on. Let's see. Let's go back to this article real quick, okay? All right. This article goes on to say this. Just this week, we have received quite a bit of troubling news, and outlooks for the months ahead is very bleak. Hold on one second. Oh, my phone just beeped. Hold on one second. Remember that Dyer? Huh? Remember that? Now, the word bleak is an adjective also, and it means of an area of land lacking vegetation and exposed to the elements. Bare. exposed, desolate. That's the one I wanted. Desolate and stark. Similar, which is cold, keen, raw, harsh. But that desolate one is the one that really makes more sense with this. It says, just this week we have received quite a bit of very troubling news, and the outlook for the months ahead look very bleak. All right? You know what the word bleak means now, right? And it goes and says, the following are 11 signs that the U.S. economy is in far worse shape than most people think. Number one, just like in 2008, delinquencies are on the rise. In fact, credit card delinquencies have now reached the highest level that we have seen in more than 10 years. So does that look like a booming and thriving economy? Let's go further, all right? Meanwhile, more consumers aren't making loan payments on time. Credit card delinquencies have hit their highest level in over a decade, and auto delinquencies are also spiking. This could prove to be yet another tripwire for the stock market, as consumer spending accounts for about 70% of U.S. economic activity. Now, here's the kicker. Consumer spending is 70% of U.S. economic activity. That means that they're borrowing to keep the U.S. economy afloat. If they're spending and they don't have the wherewithal to buy what they're buying, they have to have some way to get it. Credit. The U.S. economy is living on the gratuity of nations around the world, specifically and especially China. You understand? So let's go a little further. Number two, the commercial real estate crisis just continues to escalate. An article that originally appeared in the New York Times claims that major Wall Street banks have begun offloading their portfolios of commercial real estate loans, hoping to cut their losses. So the big wigs, the people in high government or high corporation capacity, are now offloading their portfolio while telling you everything is all good. All right, listen what it says. And I see you. I'm gonna go back to the chat in just a minute, okay? In an early but telling sign of the broader distress brewing in the commercial real estate market, which is hurting from the twin punches of high interest rates, which make it harder to refinance loans, and low occupancy rates for office buildings, an outcome of the pandemic. No, it's not. It's an outcome of ineptitude and malfeasance on the part of those who run these areas of economic commerce. Okay, so let's go further. When banks get into trouble, they start shutting down branches. See, I'm glad he says this. So listen, this is how they mask the collapse. Now, mind you, America's still finding billions to give to war profiteers. When a bank closes, they'll say, we had 50 banks close, but that's not big. We had more back in 2008 that were closing. They'll say 50 banks. And they won't tell you. See, this is how they mask the collapse. They won't tell you that each one of those banks had at least 50 branches. So now we're talking about a major crisis underway, but it's being masked because they don't want you to see the level of degradation and decline of American economics. When you have your people and you are the leader, you are supposed to prepare them for what's coming, not make them ignorant to the fall that is underway, because then the blood is on your hand. The blood is on your hand. So listen, it goes and says, oh, and by the way, everybody, listen, don't forget to join us at 10 o'clock Central Time in the morning, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time in the morning. We're going to have my guy, former CIA analyst Larry Johnson, on the platform. Also, for the channel members and the patrons, I found some more interviews that I've done. The Cynthia McKinney, two-time Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney, I found it. Activist and humanitarian and scholar Randy Short, Stephen Ledman. I got all of these interviews. I told you guys. I looked in the crate and found them for you guys. All right. So they'll be coming out shortly for you guys. Anyway, and I'm talking about I was interviewing these people before they became known to a lot of people. And the interviews, the depth, the body of the interviews that I've done, if you listen to them, you would think that they were carried out yesterday, because we address these very issues that are now plaguing America and the world right now. Okay, let's go further. It says, when banks get in trouble, they start shutting down branches. So far this year, U.S. banks have closed more than 400 branches all over the country. U.S. banks closed 51 branches across the country in the first 3 weeks of June alone. How is that economic progress? Huh? Wouldn't that money that Nancy Pelosi, the lunatic, Joe Biden, the senile guy, and all of these other lunatics in Washington, D.C., wouldn't it have better suited them to at least help the masses of the people with a loan? Hell, it's their money. You're giving it to corporations to bail out corporations. And it's people that are suffering. And then you want to come on the TV and talking about you're a Christian or you're a Muslim. Would Jesus do that? Would Muhammad do that? Leaving these people to suffer because of your ineptitude and your malfeasance. And I'm telling you, oh man, I tell you, I get mad when I think about this. All of these people are out on the street or close to being kicked out on the street because of the greed and the selfishness of so few people against so many people. This is unheard of. But let's go further. The figures suggest banks are committed to increasingly offering their services online and axing costly brick and mortar locations. More than 400 bank branches have closed so far in 2024. Now, mind you, we just entered July. More than 400 bank branches have closed from January to June. Is that a telltale sign of a prosperous economy? Or is it a telltale sign that the fissures are starting to connect into cracks that will soon give way to the dam of debt? I'm asking. What is it? Dumb F Canuck, I see you. Thank you. Flying Crocodile says closing bank branches is like closing embassies before. Oh my God, that is one of the best analysis that I've ever heard on this. That is mic drop moment. Boom. That is one of the best analysis that I've ever heard on this matter. Flying Crocodile says closing bank branches is like closing embassies before war breaks out. Less hostages and assets lost on the battlefield. Abso-flippin-lutely. Oh my God. That is apt right there. That is an apt statement right there. Thank you, Flying Crocodile. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So let's go further. Number 4. Big companies are laying off workers from coast to coast. For example, approximately 500 Texas truckers lost their jobs when a large logistics company abruptly shut their doors for good. See, this is what I'm saying. Let's go back to the war thing before I go further. You see how these truckers are being laid off and these companies are shutting their doors. Listen, these lunatics in the asylum of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and up in the Pentagon and up at the State Department and up at 10 Downing Street, they are so insane that they don't even see what's going on. America is now pivoting for war in the Middle East, war in Europe, war in Africa, and war in Asia. Now, here's the kicker. If you go to war with China, which you will, China has home turf advantage, home field advantage. China has some of the most modern weaponry. Do you know that that new Chinese destroyer has more air defense systems on it and has more missile systems on it than the United States' most advanced destroyer? I did not know that until I read a I knew that they had upgraded, but I did not know that it was called by what is it? The Australian Defense or whatever, the most advanced destroyer on the planet. In every aspect, that new destroyer that China has outguns, outsees, and outmans anything that the West has as an analog. I did not know that. So now you're in enemy territory. The enemy strikes your bases. So now you don't have resupply of weapons, arms, or troops. And your ships are sinking. And you're in a economic tailspin, the likes of a Category 5 hurricane or EF5 tornado. How do you think that's going to work out for you? No manufacturing capacity. Remember, you guys, the Pentagon did a write-out, and they said that China outproduces the United States and NATO by over 200%, right? And then a congressman, as they were addressing the China conundrum, the China problem for America, let the cat out of the bag, that China can outbuild the U.S. and NATO by approximately 540 times. How do you think war will work on your side, America? I'm asking. You'll be sending those men and women to die for foolishness. Because you can't be grown up in yourself enough to say, hey, I enjoyed my time in the sun. Now I got to take a back seat. It's another young buck up. Let them do what they do. No, it is I must rule at all costs, or else I'm going to take the world to war, and I'm going to leave it in such a condition that no one can govern. Think about that. And think about back to what we were saying about the truckers. I hadn't forgot, because all of this connects. China manufactures 93 to 95% of all goods on U.S. shelves. We've been through that. Now, if you go to war with China, China calls in the debt, the $1.some trillion. You say you're not going to pay. That's a default. That means other nations will see what you're doing, and they've seen what you've done to Iran, Venezuela, and now Russia. That you're refusing to pay the debt that you owe, which means now you've upended your financial system, because other people will make breakneck speed for the door from the dollar. And this will have knock-on effects for the pound and the euro, which will cause instability across the Western world. Now, here's another kicker. China embargoes you because you're going to war. Who the hell is going to send goods to you and they're at war with you? Only Russia does that type of stuff. And they should stop. There's no flipping way that the EU could be waging an economic war with me and they can still receive oil or gas from me. Have you lost your flipping mind? There's no way that I would be supplying America with nuclear power to generate electricity on her own land while she's waging war and openly boasting about the caliber of weapons that she's sending and might be sending mercenaries in there. Have you lost your mind? And I would tell any nation that buys from me, if you sell it to them third party, I'm going to sanction you too. You're not going to supply my enemies with the things that they need while they're trying to choke off and strangle my economics and my political system. Everybody better start applying the first law of nature, self-preservation. Now look, China embargoes the United States. That means nothing comes in, nothing goes out. That means, and people have already said, there's between 1 and 2 weeks of food on the shelves in the grocery stores. Okay, once those grocery stores go empty, the grocery stores close down. That's unemployment. Guess what happens then? The debt that the grocery stores owe to the banks don't get repaid. So now you have more banks going belly up. Guess what happens then? The delivery trucks, planes, and trains default on their debt because they have no cargo to ship. Which means add on knock effect in the economic turmoil for the banks. Which means we have more unemployment, the trains close down, the cargo planes stop, the shipping stop, right? The trucks, the vans, everything that moves cargo and commerce across the U.S. stops. That means massive unemployment. What follows that? More bank closures, which means now you have destroyed your own economy by extension, because you got this animosity in your heart to try to prevent China from usurping your authority or surpassing you on the international stage. China didn't do it. You're doing it. Do you understand? And all of these Harvard and Yale and Radcliffe and all of these people from all of these prestigious colleges cannot fathom these simple things. All they want to do is run the world, force people in subjugation to their rule. And they cannot see that they are the ones who are setting the Western house on fire. They've loaded it with tinder. They've brought the economic gasoline and the political gasoline. And with one strike of war or miscalculation, the whole house goes up in flames. And it's China's fault. Man, stop this foolishness. Stop this. Man, we are adults. Stop this. See, what was that scripture say? When I was a child, I did as a child. I spake as a child. But now that I'm no longer a child, I put away those childish things. Someone needs to put that in the mind of the leadership of the Western world. Because we have children in office. We have children running these politics and these economic games. We have children who are in control of the nuclear bomb and the military arsenal of the West. And they're willing, and they're showing you they're willing to push the world towards global conflagration. Rashid is not making anything up. And they're pissed because other nations are running out of the dollar. As a matter of fact, let me just play another clip for you. Let's do this, okay? And everybody is extricating themselves from euro and pound and dollar hegemony. Listen to this.
Caspian Railway in northern Iran was finally inaugurated on Thursday in the presence of Iran's caretaker president Mohammad Mokhber and high-ranking officials from Russia and Azerbaijan. The 37-kilometer railway line serves as a crucial link connecting the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf in the south of Iran through the country's railway network. The project marks a significant milestone for regional trade, representing the final piece of the pivotal new trade route known as the North-South Transport Corridor. This strategic transit path establishes a vital link between Eastern Europe, Russia, India, and the Persian Gulf nations through Iran. Both Moscow and Tehran have turned to this trade route in the wake of restrictions faced in the global shipping arena as a result of Western sanctions. So the INSTC is widely seen by both sides as an alternative trade network that bypasses the challenges of sanctions as it passes through Iran and therefore remains immune to foreign intervention. It also offers a more cost-effective and efficient alternative to the Suez Canal, which is now close to Russian shipments. Experts say the transportation of goods from India to Russia through this corridor will be approximately 30% cheaper and 40% faster than the competing route through the Suez Canal. The North-South Corridor comprises multiple modes of transportation, including ships, railways, and roads. It was initially launched in 2000 at the initiative of Iran, Russia, and India. Since then, it has extended its reach to 11 additional countries, including Turkmenistan, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Tajikistan. The commercial link also offers significant benefits for various Persian Gulf countries, such as Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, spanning over 7,200 kilometers. This multimodal trade route comprises three main sections, originating from Russia, stretching through the Caspian Sea, as well as its eastern and western shores, to reach Iran's northern ports, traversing Iran via its railway network and culminating at the country's southern ports, including Bandar Abbas and Chabahar, before reaching Indian ports. Iran, Russia, and India have been collaborating to expand the infrastructure of the INSTC to facilitate seamless trade along this strategic transit path. India recently invested $370 million to enhance Iran's sole oceanic port of Chabahar at the southern tip of the route. On the northern side of the corridor, Russia has also been working with Iran to improve the infrastructure of Iran's Caspian ports. The continuous improvement of INSTC infrastructure highlights the swift evolution of global trade routes amid shifting geopolitical dynamics, and observers refer to the emerging commercial link as the new Silk Road of the Eastern Hemisphere, set to replace the Western-dominated trade networks.
And that's why you have war. And that's why America continues to try to prevent. See, because if she goes ahead and makes war with Iran or Hezbollah or Hamas, she knows that'll draw in Hezbollah. She knows that the Syrian Arab Republic would have to respond also, because Hezbollah has been helping her. She knows that if it intensifies, that will eventually bring in Iran. She will try to then justify it going to war with Iran to break Iran because of that, right? That northwest corridor, that bypassing the Suez Canal, bypassing anything that is dominated by the West. The Chinese Belt and Road, what they're doing. Russia with the new opening as the ice, the permafrost melts and everything. Excuse me, there was a little fly flew right on me on these little flies flying. But anyway, that was what has them scared. See, America's dollar, the reason you hear all the pundits say that it is not easy to replace the dollar in commerce is because America's military lies on all of the strategic waterways and pipelines as a threat for any nation who tries to buck up against the dollar. But when Russia opens up that new trade route, in between Russia and Alaska, and the Belt and Road Initiative builds up more, and then the what you just saw in it with Iran, Russia, and India, all of these have something to do with the BRICS, the global South. They are weakening the stranglehold of dollar hegemony, pound hegemony, euro hegemony. That's why they want chaos in the Middle East. They see that Iran as the weakest of the three components: Russia, China, Iran. India is a toss-up with India because India wants to be respected by the West. And this is what I never get about India. All right. India has beef with China over something that Britain did by the McMahon line, right? And they have never forgiven China for beating them in the 1962 war. And they are so preoccupied with China, right? And yet they do everything that they can to be part of the what is it called? The with Britain, when they have these nations together, I forget, I'm going blank with, but with all these former colonies under Britain, how they get together and how they are part, by extension, of British rule. They never have suspicion. They never have the hatred towards Britain for colonizing and raping and robbing them. But they continue to loathe China. And I'm going to tell you why that happens. It's because in the 60s, India was richer than China. India was projected to be the next superpower. And the Chinese surpassed them. And the Chinese became that superpower that India was looking to be. And they never forgave the Chinese for that. But they forgive. They're suffering from Stockholm. They are forgiving Britain, who colonized them, who raped the people, who robbed them, but they won't forgive their neighbor whom they cannot pick their borders up and take it somewhere else. They cannot work out the differences between them, right? That's the same with Black America. Because being under slavery so long, they identify with everything that was negative towards themselves. And that's why you have a lot of violence, because that's what was inbred in them. They saw the slave master do that to them over and over. Nigga this, nigga that. Pardon me, YouTube, but I gotta say it. And the rape, the robbery, the killing, all of that stuff. Science says that environment shapes a person's makeup just as much as DNA. And if you've done that to a people for 3.5 centuries and you've bred them like animals, guess what you get? Animal actions. So when you see the violence, don't see it outside the light of the cause, see it in the light of the cause. That gives you a deeper understanding of what you're dealing with. Do you understand? So let's go further, because we got to address this. And I know the time is of the essence. I gotta go handle something shortly. Hold on one second, everybody. Give me a second. Let me go back to this. So it says a truck and logistics company has abruptly shut, affecting 2,000 workers just 3 years after being bought by private equity. Out of the blue, staff at U.S. Logistics Solutions were given news on Thursday that they were out of a job and would not get their paychecks on Friday. Just out of the blue. Now, these people had families, they had bills to pay, they had all of that stuff. It did not stop when the business closed. The people worked them for that week knowing that they would not get paid for that. What do you call that? That is a symptom of capitalism. I'm going to get as much as I can at the expense of everybody else, regardless to how much I hurt everybody else. When you look at these billionaires, $200, $300 billion, they can never spend that amount of money. And there's so many people that are hurting that if you would just forget your foundation, because that foundation is just another way for you to funnel your money other places. How about you take $10 billion or $20 billion? It wouldn't be nothing. It'll be a tax write-off for you. How about Bill Gates give 20? What's his name? Jim Rogers give a couple billion. And what's the dude from Berkshire? What's his name? Buffett. How about he gives another 20 billion? And then you have Elon Musk, since he says he cares so much about the people, let him give another 20 or 30 billion. Do you know that they can eradicate homelessness and poverty completely across America, according to the writings from the HUD office? Do you know that? So if they care so much, prove it. People are suffering right now because of these policies of these lunatics today. All right? So listen. It goes further and says this. Around 500 truck drivers, and the rest of a mixture of warehouse, dock, and office workers at the humble Texas-based companies were laid off. Listen to this. Number 5. The Dallas Fed Service Index has now been in a negative territory for 25 months in a row. That's 2 years plus 1 month. 25 months is 2 years and 1 month. It says this is the 25th straight month of contraction, sub-zero, for the Dallas Fed Services Index, and judging by the respondents' comments, there is a clear place to point the finger of blame. So, without even reading all 11, we've just come to the, how in the hell can America afford war abroad? Because the wars abroad are going to bring the war home. Listen to me good. People love their families. If you don't love your family, you shouldn't have one. And when it comes down and they can't provide for their families because of the policies of these knee-jerk, sissified leaders, they're going to start redirecting their anger from each other towards these leaders. And then you have a war at home. You think about the masses of the former military. Some of them are somewhat doing good. Some of them are struggling. Some of them have had a bad chance since they came. It was hard for them to readapt to society. Now check this out. They've been trained for war. That's what they've been trained for, to defend their country, right? Now, when their country turns their back on them, and cannot find money to aid them, but can find 200+ billion to aid Ukraine, which is one of the most corrupt countries on the planet. Don't you think anger, animosity, and hatred is brewing in the hearts of the people who had pledged their oath to give their lives to protect the very republic that is giving away their money to other people? Huh? Now think about this. When it all comes down, and those same people who were trained under the gun to direct their anger to people who were coming against what the leader said against the republic, and they have nothing else. Their family is being put out on the street. They have no food. Their cars is repossessed. They're going through every kind of a plight that you can go through. What happens next? What do we think will happen next when these people have been trained for war and they are at home suffering and being disrespected and their families are being thrown out on the street and they can't get health care or mental care? What do you think that will lead to? Then guess what happens? That's what happens. We then have a war at home. And that will be the next shoe to drop. On that note, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth bar none on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for spending a little time with your good old brother here. Know that I love you if you love truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that the true and living God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. And always remember to treat others as you would have them to treat you. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you all for joining me. We're out of here. Peace.